doing the Super Bowl recap here today. The season is over. It is over. Sorry, I'm doing this like very shortly after I woke up. I didn't have time to comb my hair or anything, but let's do the old recap. Seattle Patriots. Seattle beats up on the Patriots 29-13. This game was 12-0 going into the fourth quarter. Then the team scored 30 points in the fourth combined. Patriots got one garbage touchdown to kind of soften the beating, kind of like what the Chiefs did last year. Seattle's D was on point. New England's was good too. It's just they were giving up field goals, and Seattle wasn't giving up anything. And then Seattle did get a defensive touchdown, but the MVP was Walker the third, I believe, the running back for the Seahawks. Sam Darnold, former Jet pick. Jets watching their quarterback, and he wasn't even complete garbage on the Jets either. I feel if you look at his stats, if they gave him more time or whatever the fuck, things could turn out different. He's 19 of 38, 202 yards. A TD, no picks. He only sacked once. Walker, 27 carries, 135 yards. He had a TD at the end of the game that was called back for holding, I believe. Cooper Kupp, 6 catches, 61 yards, lead the way. Barner has 4 for 54 and a TD. They get a lot of sacks here. Witherspoon has a sack, 2 sacks for Hall, 2 sacks for Murphy the second, and a sack for Mills for 6. Number 7, Nwosu, he has a pick return for a TD, 45 yards. Love also has a pick return for 35 yards, not a TD though. Their kicker should have gotten the MVP. 5 for 5 on his field goals along with 41. He hits both extra points. I mean, this game, it was looking like the Patriots might not score. I was like, holy shit, dude. But every team, even with Denver when Seattle blew them out, they managed to get a TD. It always happens. The team always manages, like, we're getting embarrassed, but we can't get shut out as well. Yeah, defensively, they were on point. Patriots, May was having shoulder issues, I guess, from the Denver game, because they made a point to say he got an injection before the game, or he did. You always have that. It's like, oh, we have that now. You know? It's like, oh, Bo Nix was hurt. Perfect. There's your... Perfect. When they lose, and they did, barely, you're like, okay, Nix wasn't hurt. He was hurt. Doesn't matter. It would have been bad. If Denver happened to get to the Super Bowl, it would have been the same result, I think, with Stidham, whatever. In there, I don't think it would have been... I would have rather seen them make the Super Bowl at full capability. You know what I'm saying? I think anybody with their team. And you can say the same thing. Oh, May was banged up. You'd want him at full, you want your team at full capability, right? But every team's got injuries. It just sucks when your quarterback's the one that's done. May is 27 of 43, 295, and he came on in the fourth. He wasn't doing much until the fourth. 295 yards, 2 TDs, 2 picks. He sacked 6 times. He did run for 37 yards to lead the way. They run 18 carries, 79 yards as a team. Hollins, 4 catches, 78 yards and a TD. Stevenson had the other TD. And 5 catches, 40 yards for him. May loses a fumble. They get the sack is from Williams. Their kicker hit his one extra point. They went for 2, I guess, on the second one. Because Seattle's offensive touchdown, came off of the fumble, I believe, or maybe it came off the pick. It came off of one of the other turnovers. Offensively, they weren't going nuts, although Walker did well. He had, 130-something yards rushing? 135. He did well. His long was 35, or 30. So he kind of did deserve the MVP. You can't really give it to a kicker. If that game ended up being... If they didn't score the offensive touchdown... and they get the defensive one, and maybe Walker has, just 100 yards, you have to give it to the kicker, I feel. I mean, come on. Or, if the kicker was 5 for 5, and hit like 250-plus yarders, you'd almost have to give it to him. Darnold doesn't turn the ball over, which is key. He's only 50% on his pass accuracy. Only completed 50% of his passes, but Patriots D was doing decent, and then it's just their offense wasn't doing anything to where I'm sure their D was getting tired. There was a ton of 3-and-outs. I should look at the punts. The guy on Seattle had 7 punts. The guy on the Patriots had 8 punts. A lot of punts. There was a lot of I did not watch any of this game at all. I was just going to the game cast pretty consistently, actually. I was like, I want to see what's going on. So I was slightly up to date on how it was going. Because it was a slow-moving game. I want to say it was 9-0 at the half. But it was looking like one of those games where it's like Seattle's just getting the field goals. Their first 12 points were all the field goals. And you're like, man, they could put this away, and they're not, leaving the door open. But then it was 19-0, and even after they got the TD off the turnover, and then the Pats scored pretty quickly to make it 19-7, but you're still like, this game's over. And this was all in the fourth quarter. It was 12-0 going into the fourth. It was one of those games where if you're a Patriots fan, you probably knew, even after the TD, like it just wasn't going to happen. Because I think the Seahawks countered the touchdown with a field goal, I think. And then there was the pick return. It was 29-7. And then they got a touchdown. And then they got the ball back, I believe. And it was like, I forget exactly how it went, but it was over at that point. But congrats to the Seahawks. A nice win. I'm going to try to ramble out here a little bit. Long season. It was a weird season, in my opinion. And here's the thing. If you're looking at Seattle as well, although Seattle was kind of, even under Geno Smith, they were doing pretty well. The Patriots, the Broncos as well. What are they going to do next year? Because everybody, of course, was like, cake schedule after they lost the Pats. Like, you can only play the games you're supposed to fucking play, right? Like, Denver was eating that shit too. And they would have eaten it as well if they made the Super Bowl and lost. Maybe not to the same extent, but they would have eaten it too if they got made there and lost. Because also, everybody's like, oh, I guess the Chargers were banged up. I don't know. But, they had to play Denver and Knicks was hurt. It doesn't matter. You have to play the games, right? But here's the thing. This goes for Denver. But Seattle did end up winning it. But you could be like, well, Seattle, they beat the Rams, who were solid. Who did they beat their first game? Their first playoff game. But you could be like, well, they beat the Patriots, who are a weak fucking team, apparently. Everybody was saying they were weak. So Seattle won a weak Super Bowl. You can play this game constantly if you wanted to. Because the Patriots had a weak schedule. So the Seahawks just beat a weak team, apparently. According to that logic, the Patriots sucked. And the Seahawks beat a team that sucked. So they didn't earn it. If you want to do that, play that game. I don't play that game. I never have. It's like, dude, you got to beat who you can, right? You beat who you're going to beat. Play. You play the teams on your schedule. Denver would have eaten that shit too a bit as well if they had made it and won. Or lost, I should say. If they won somehow. If the Patriots lost, somehow Seattle would have sucked. Oh, another weak team. Like, there would have been reasons, right? That's why I love sports. There's always a fucking reason. But what I was saying, these teams, it's all about what they do next year. That's where you can say it. If Denver sucks next year, say they're even 9-8, they need to get to the playoffs, essentially. And so does New England. I mean, you could say Seattle too. Because all of a sudden, if they don't do it next year with harder schedules, because all three are going to have first place schedules, but Denver and New England, they're going to have first place schedules. The schedules are released. They do play each other, Denver and New England. So you're going to find out. Now, if Denver goes 11-6 and makes the playoffs, maybe doesn't even win division, you're not going to hear shit. If New England makes the playoffs, you're not going to hear shit. But if New England or Denver win 6 games next year, That's when you could be like, well, that last season was fraudulent. You could go then. It's kind of the waiting game on that front. That's why these teams need to be good again next year. I mean, in Denver's case, they did make the playoffs the year prior. Although you could argue they got in because that's not this, because KC rested their whole team that year, the last game, because they were like 15-2 or 14-1 at the time, or 15-1 at the time. It didn't matter. Now you could have Denver played them tight the first game in KC and lost on a blocked field goal. I believe they could have won it, so maybe they could have beat them anyway. But they still did make the playoffs that year before. New England went from like 3-14, 3-14 or whatever to Super Bowl. But once again, they had a weak schedule. Teams had a chance to beat them. The Chargers, the fucking Texans with their 8 turnovers or 1,000. Stroud with his 100 picks. Now you could say the same thing with Denver as you could say with New England. Their defense is legit. Denver's defense is legit. The Patriots is. You can get on the offense because their line apparently sucks. Because I feel like, granted, New England was playing a bunch of tough defenses consecutively. That's going to take its toll on you. Throughout the playoffs, they had to play Texans. Chargers D is decent. Texans is really good. Denver's is really good. Seattle's was ranked, I think, overall the best. Because he was taking a beating. He got sacked, like, I think 6 times against Denver as well. May. He just didn't turn the ball over, I think, in that game. So that was the difference. Because Stidham had 2. But like I said, at the end of the day, if Denver had made the Super Bowl, it would have been rough. It really would have been. Because if they had won that Patriot game, it would have been like 14-10, 13-10. You know, it wasn't like Stidham all of a sudden was just like, 4 TDs, holy shit, here we go. But it was a weird season all around. Weird season. Mahomes ends up getting hurt. They were kind of not great to begin with, though. But then he ends up, they were like 6-5, and I think he got hurt in the literally like one of the last plays of the Charger game. So they would have been 6-6 with him at full health. And then they just, maybe Mahomes should have gotten the MVP because he goes down and they immediately suck. But, congrats to the Patriots as well, though, man. You're 3-14 2 years in a row, and then you pop a Super Bowl 14-3. You can't take that away from them. Like, you can't just be like, the schedule this, the schedule that. Like, what are they supposed to do? Be like, well, they sucked. They were in last place the year before. They're going to get shitty teams. They beat the Bills once. I don't know who else they beat with winning records. Denver had beaten the Chiefs once before Mahomes got hurt. Denver just struggles offensively. They need offensive help, and they know it. But defensively, they're legit. Same thing with the Patriots. So you're going to see those teams compete regardless if you're looking at the schedule because their Ds are good. Somehow, if Denver made the Super Bowl, it still would have been like a 20-17 win or loss. Like, it would have somehow been close. But, congrats to the Seahawks. Hell of a season. Congrats to Darnold and the whole team, the franchise, the fans. Darnold, thrown away. The Vikings are like, nah, we don't know. The Jets, I don't know why he left the Jets. Was he not on the Panthers too briefly? Listen, you can't just be like, he's the reason they won though, right? But he still had a solid fucking year, and he had a good year with the Vikings as well last year. Maybe he's a late bloomer, right? It doesn't matter now for him though, or the Seahawks, because they got the win. They got the win. Darnold has his title. It doesn't matter. Realistically, it doesn't matter what happens next year. It's kind of like what I say when they play like the Cardinals when they lost to the Steelers. They needed to win that Super Bowl as a franchise because realistically, they were never getting back. Will they ever get back? They haven't. They didn't improve upon that Super Bowl appearance. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't pop another one or something. I feel like certain teams need to win that Super Bowl. I'm trying to think of another team. I'd say the Panthers against Denver, but They did make the other Super Bowl, and they've had better years. I'm trying to think of like another team that's in that same boat. But it's really the Cardinals is that kind of example. Maybe the Falcons against the Patriots, but they had made that one I'm talking as a franchise too. But the Falcons, they made the playoffs, I think, after that colossal fucking blown lead against the Patriots. My God. But I don't. The Cardinals are that team. You're just like they needed to win it. Anyway, Super Bowl's done. The season's done. I can take a break from these recaps until next year, when everybody's interested in them for 3 weeks, and then no one gives a fuck. The Super Bowl ones typically do well, but I still do like doing them. I just might do them less frequently. Kind of like, okay, I'm going to recap 2 or 3 weeks. Kind of like what I'm doing now with the Premier League. But anyway, how did your team do? Did you have a good year? Regardless, like, I look at Denver's season and be like, hey, it was a good year. You were missing your quarterback in the AFC Championship. You've got your excuse now to why you lost. And you had a good year. The Patriots still had a great year. But it's what do you do the next year? If you make the playoffs next year, the Patriots, and they win another playoff game, you can't get on them. You're not going to be able to say schedule, because it's going to be a first place schedule that they're playing. So, but Seattle beat them up. They didn't have any answers. But how'd your team do otherwise, though? Like, certain teams, it's still a good year. Like, you could look at the Panthers. Were they 8-9? Did they win the division at 8-9? Still, you could be like, good year. They're improving. That's the thing. You want to see improvement. Certain teams, you could look at it. Like the Jets, you're just like, oh my God, it's never going to end. The Lions, you could be like, oof, let down of a year. Shit like that. Oh, the Texans, man, Stroud. Because they would have been a problem, because if they had beaten the Patriots, they would have went to Denver, and Denver wouldn't have Knicks either. They could have rolled to the Super Bowl if he doesn't throw like 800 picks, because they were somehow still in that game, which is nuts, against the Patriots. But anyway, another season in the books. Congrats to the Seahawks on the win. Congrats on the Patriots for a solid year. You made it to the Super Bowl. You were the AFC champs. And now, it was a weird season overall, I feel, though. Really weird season. You get weird NFL seasons every, maybe 5-6 years. It's just a weird years. You can go back out. There's just weird years throughout. But anyway. NFL recap. Whatever this season this is. The 2025-26 season is in the books. And thanks for checking this out. And